Are you guys good to go?
We're good.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay somewhat connected with cities. I've been asked and I've been honored to help Harvard coach new mayors and do some work with some incoming mayors around the country. I'm going to do a little bit of work with Yale University that I've been doing for the last number of years, convening mayors, talking about best practices. So I'll get a chance to do what I've really come to love, which is be a student of cities. That's not really how you make a living, but I will still get to stay connected, and I'm thrilled for that. From a living standpoint, I don't know. Marie and I don't know yet. We still have the construction company. It's a time capsule. I walked over there the other day. I think the ham sandwich I was eating when I got elected is still in the fridge, but it's still there. Our shop is still there. Don't know if we'll get back into construction or not. I think we're just gonna, we're chapter people. I spent my early life in athletics, and I was a Lobo athlete. We spent 20 plus years in business. Now we've spent 12 years as a family in public service between the legislature and the mayor. So our next chapter doesn't look like politics for us, but we'll just see what doors open. I have a lot of faith that doors open and close in our lives, and we'll just see what that looks like. Just something to stay connected and passionate with the community, maybe in the nonprofit sector. I don't really know yet, but we'll see.
What kind of advice are you giving him?
Listen, you're going to walk into challenges. All of us walk into challenges. If I would have run and gotten a third term, I'd have the same challenges you're going to have next week. It's a big job, but you have 6,000 people at the city that get up every day and work really hard to make this city great. And they were here before you got here. A lot of them will be here when you're gone. Embrace them. Let them teach you. Listen a lot. And just have some kind of a grounding influence in your life. Maria, for me, the First Lady, has been great. I still do the dishes, just those little things, right? Still mow the yard. You're the mayor, and that's a big, important position, I guess. I've always seen it from a standpoint of just I'm grateful to have it. I've never felt like we're anything special because we were elected, but it is a big job. So find something that keeps you grounded, because you're going to have some really highs on some days, and you're going to have some real lows on others, and just rely on your family and just do your best. You're going to make mistakes. Work hard to make them honest ones, and just give it everything you got for this city, because it deserves it.
So hard?
No. I mean, here I have a fundamental understanding. There's a collective wisdom in your community. They elected me at a time where I think they felt like they needed a business person in City Hall. You don't get to choose when you serve. You serve during, I happen to be in a cohort of mayors that served through the Great Recession. Those were different times than we have today, after we've added 25,000 jobs and the economy's on the upswing. But now crime is up, so that's a challenge he's going to have to tackle. I think the best thing you can do as a mayor is take what your predecessors did, take the things that you believe in, build off those foundations, bring your vision and aspirations to the office, do what you say you did. He ran on a platform. He got elected with a handy margin. I expect him as a citizen that he will do those things. Some of them will involve some of my initiatives and some won't, and that's okay, one mayor at a time. And all you can do as an elected official is the best you can do while you're there, and hope that the good things continue and that the community will rally around those good things and help any new mayor, myself, or now in the case of Mayor-elect Keller, what's important to them, and carry those things on as best you can, knowing that not everything does survive. Well, look, we're nothing. I'm not a special guy. I'm just a guy that loved my city enough to put our business on hold and come in for 8 years and try to leave things better than we found them. And I surrounded myself with talented, energetic, passionate people, very diverse group of people, politically diverse in thought, traditional diversity, and just that we cared and we did our very best. And some of the things that we have done will certainly last. We've taken a long game approach on many of these things with, rewriting zoning codes. Not everything's headline worthy, but doing large scale public works projects, transit, Paseo, and other things. Those things will be around, but more, I just want them to remember that I love my place and I loved it more the day I walked out than the day I walked in, and we just gave it our best shot.
Future?
Going back to this chapter idea in our lives where we were, as a student athlete, then a business person, and then public service, I think Marie and I are both thinking in terms of next chapters that probably don't involve politics. Not that I wouldn't do civic engagement or some other way to add value in the community, but we don't have any plans at this point to run for any office. And we gave our word 8 years ago that we would self-term limit. We did. I think we are known as people that keep our word. So when I tell you we don't have any plans, we don't have any plans to do that. Just want to really get plugged back into the community as best we can. Don't know what that looks like just yet. Don't want to spend too much time while I'm in office thinking about it. Just see what doors open and navigate towards that. There's a lot of things we're passionate about a lot of activities in our community, the arts and culture community, the immigrant and refugee community. There's a lot of work to do there. There's work to do in the nonprofit sector. There's jobs to create out there. There's the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Gosh, there's just endless opportunities, and we'll just see what doors open. The future has a wonderful way of taking care of itself, and we just have confidence in that. I knew that would be asked, and I'm not going to skirt the question. I just don't think let me give you categories of things. The fact that we've done $1.2 billion worth of improvements, critical infrastructure, projects in every district of the city, paving roads, transit, Paseo, Convention Center, Innovation Central downtown, Innovate ABQ, the downtown revitalization, those are all things that that we really worked hard on. I'm also really, really thankful that our community would let us tackle some really tough social issues: chronic homelessness, veterans homelessness, the panhandling initiatives, the things that aren't easy. So there isn't just one. I think the category would be that we did the tough things, the things that aren't politically expedient, the things that aren't always popular, in fact, the things that are downright controversial at times that you think are best for your city. This community allowed us to do things, the hard things, and that don't always just have an immediate gratification to them, but that have an opportunity to keep our city in the right direction for a long time.
Wish I would have made this decision differently.
So
what is that?
Yeah, so that's kind of like an athlete question, and I always go back to the athlete. Regret is built around times when you didn't give it everything you had. So knowing that every single day for 8 years we gave it everything we had, those regrets aren't there. I'm not going to ever look back and go, I wish we would have tried harder for this, or I wish we would have tried harder for that. Now there's hindsight, and it's always 20/20. And you look back at mistakes you make, and every administration, mine included, you make mistakes. Ours have been well-intentioned, honest mistakes, but you look at them and you think, well, we could have done this or that better next time. There's 100 of those. But I think collectively, I look at the team that we put together, and we gave them a lot of ability to navigate themselves, didn't try to micromanage our leadership that much. I think all told, we would hindsight a few things, but nothing that I would put into the regret category. There's things we didn't get finished. We get it. Every administration has that. But the big things that we tried to accomplish, ABQ the plan, you look at that ABQ the plan book, everything in that book got done, except for the fairgrounds, which is more of a state issue than ours. But we just tried to make our handshake mean something. We told you when we ran the second time we were going to build ART, or bus rapid transit. We did. We said we'd try to get Paseo done. We said that we would. I was surprised at how much we got to work on social issues, and I was thrilled, and it became a real passion of mine as a mayor. To house 715 plus chronically homeless folks in our city and be able to save $5 million for the taxpayers doing it. Those are heavy long-term things. So I'm just super grateful. This town will let you. This is one thing haven't told Keller yet, but I tell him this city will let you work hard even if they don't agree with you all the time, as long as they feel like you're trying to do it for the right reasons. What we're hearing on the street is it already is changing. It is, look, there's no way to sugarcoat it. When we put orange barrels up in front of your business for a year, that's a tough year. We kept lanes going both directions. That's why I think we didn't have more businesses actually have to go out of business than did, like some cities have had, but the businesses lost revenue. Talked to a few that have business actually is up a little bit, but let's just agree that it's been a tough year for those businesses. I kind of got off track on the question.
What will change the perception so that people will buy into the art project?
So a couple of things about ART. Talking to other cities before we even started, we knew it would be controversial. The path that Albuquerque has gone with this, where people get disrupted and then they rightfully get upset, that's not unusual. This is the biggest public works projects in our city's history. So that was not unexpected. What we tried to do is minimize that as best we could by keeping those lanes open. And now that the barrels are going away and people are getting a chance to ride ART and they're seeing these, what I think are beautiful stations light up at night, and they see that you can actually now see the view corridors. You don't have a 60-foot bus zooming 3 feet next to you on a sidewalk, and you can see the business storefronts a little bit better. I think people will start to see that not so much what Mayor Barry designed, but what we allowed the world-class designers to design is really going to be a positive thing moving forward. And I think it's a time thing. And it's going to take another intentional effort to keep it and make it successful. So we would be Pollyannish to think that there's not 6 months to maybe even a year of working through a new system, whether it's light signalization or the first all-electric bus rapid transit in America. There's going to be things that we're going to have to work on to make even better. But overall, I think when people see the ridership, when they see those 20,000 students from UNM riding that thing up and down to Nob Hill and to Uptown and back and forth, and they see tourists riding and they see more business coming that way, and we get more of our citizens as discretionary riders, along with the folks that rely on public transportation for their day-to-day transit needs. I think that's where people will notice it. It's going to take a lot of effort, though. This is a gold-rated system, the first of its kind in America, but that's gold rated on a plan, and the plan's going to have to be adhered to stay gold rated, and that means those 13 new security officers are going to have to stay on that. We're going to have to run the headways. The timing's going to have to be like we planned. We're going to have to run it till 1 o'clock in the morning for the students on weekend nights. All of those things need to stay in place for it to be successful. So I'd be remiss to think that just build it and it's automatically successful. It's going to take some work, and I do have a lot of confidence that the next administration will do that. I really do. Great question, and let me give you a little bit of a longer answer, and you can use what part of it you want. So let me start by saying it's going to get better, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But let me start by saying we know how to fight crime in Albuquerque. We know how to do it. Not trying to be braggadocious, but this administration does own the 4 lowest crime rates in history. I'll have the lowest crime rate average of any mayor. Well, that's fine. Crime is up now. What we haven't been able to do yet is overcome the emptying of the Bernalillo County Jail. We have 2,000 less people in jail than we had just a few years ago. And when you look at those low crime rate years, we had somewhere between 3,100 and 2,800 people in jail. Since 2012, we've reduced the jail population in Bernalillo County by 60%. There's 2,000 out of 3,000 people, 2,000 more people out there who are doing a lot of harm in our community, some of them, a small percentage of them actually. So the answer is this: we don't have to put 2,000 people back in jail, but you take that combined with the new DA walks in with 7,800 unindicted felony cases, 25,000 more cases coming in every year, underfunded, which equals understaffed, Those are recipes for a criminal system, justice system that's disrupted, and we have yet to overcome those. But I think we have the things in place that will allow that. Let me give you a couple examples. I think the new DA has some really great opportunities, great partnerships with APD. That is good news. This alert system that was developed through this administration and then in conjunction with the DA, we've identified 168 out of those 2,000 people that have had 1,000 felony arrests in the last 3 years alone. So far, we've been able to target about 61 of these individuals. 25 of them have been sentenced already to 152 years in jail. Now, you hate to have to sit here as a mayor and say crime gets better when more people are in jail, because we want to make sure that criminal justice reform is on the forefront. But at the end of the day, you have a criminal justice system for a reason. And right now, it is so severely disrupted that our officers have to arrest somebody 5, 6, 7, or 8 times. That's not a policing problem. We do need more police. Mayor Keller has promised 400 more officers. That is good news for the community. We'll be hopeful on that front. But that alone, it's not just a less cops, more crime issue. It is a disrupted system that we haven't been able to get square yet. But I think we have the tools in place to get it square. I think it's going to take somewhere between another 6 to 8 months to possibly a year. But at the end of the day, it's going to take those people that are doing a lot of harm, having the best prosecutors put on their cases and the most resources put towards that, and making sure that there's accountability. And when crime does go down, and it will, take a look at that jail population. It's not going to be 1,133 like it was last week. It doesn't have to be 3,100 like when I took office, but I imagine it'll be somewhere around 1,400 to 1,600, and that would be normal for a city our size. It's a long answer, but I think that's, yeah.
And with that long
Hey, look, the buck stops on the mayor's desk. I get it. We pull some of the levers in the criminal justice system, not all of them, but you're a reporter professionally, and you know how hard it is to navigate that criminal justice system and to figure out what's happening where. So we're just trying to give people a straight answer. Yes, we need more police officers. Our studies don't show that that's why crime is up. That our officers have a lot to do, and they need more help. And when you let 2,000 people out of jail, that overwhelms an already overwhelmed system. So yes, that's part of it. But I think with the case management order, with the constitutional amendment, with the pretrial services, with all the things that led to the jail, basically losing 66% of its population in a short period of time, the whole system working back together does that. So as the mayor, what we've tried to do is pull the levers that we can control. And Chief Eden has done a good job, and his staff. We've got the largest recruiting classes we've had for 10 years. They're actually giving speeches nationally about how to recruit. So we've kind of gotten through some of that disruption. We lost return to work, as you know. 345 officers walked out the door since we lost that in 2010. We wouldn't have near the shortage we have today if it wasn't for that. I have been unable, and I apologize to the community, I have not been able to get that back from the legislature. I had all the Republican votes in the House 2 years ago, but I can't get it through the Senate there. Mr. Keller and Mr. Lewis both said they don't think that's an issue. I don't know if they'll think differently down the road, but I was not able to get that done for my community. So now we're in this business of recruiting our way back in. I didn't want to lower standards, so we didn't. So we're at 830-ish today. We think we have enough people in the queue to get back to 920, 940-ish over the next year. And then, of course, the new mayor will come in and start their efforts. And I look forward to seeing what they're able to do there.
Talking about transparency, there's always a now.
So let me just say this. There's a lot of different opinions on what happened with that instance where information went out. We have different people saying that they felt like there were different things, that they thought they were being truthful in what they said. I don't have any investigation in front of me that points one way or the other. Let me just say this. It is important. It is important that we get it right, and we are known as a we've won national awards for transparency in this administration, and we take that very seriously. And when there are things that don't live up to that, or there's a perception that they don't live up to that, then as a mayor, you call folks in and say, listen, we've got to do better. And that's what we did. And, you know, at the end of the day, there was that instance, I think you're referring to the one where the detectives did or didn't go out. And so not being in the room at the time, I can't answer for what was said or what happened at the time, but I can tell you we've had a lot of discussions about making sure that we're getting accurate information out there. I think there's a lot of people believe still that they were trying to give accurate information, but there's findings that from others that say not so much. So let's just stay accountable and do the best we can. Well, look, I mean, let's talk about where we are today. So, well, let me go back to 2010. So we've had one spike in officer-involved shootings since I've been the mayor. That was in 2010. We haven't had a spike since. We've had years where we've had some of the lowest officer-involved shootings. Before the DOJ came in the door, we did 60 reforms on our own, including the first department of our size to do lapel cameras in the CIT training that we do now that I think is literally saving lives. Those were kind of pre-DOJ. Now, when DOJ came in with their findings letter, we took that very seriously. We negotiated what I think is one of the best settlement agreements in the country. It is incredibly aggressive. As we sit here today, according to the monitor's last report, we are 74% complete. So we're about 3/4 of the way through the original time. We're about 3/4 of the way through the original money. And according to the report, we're about 3/4 of the way finished. That doesn't mean there's not heavy lifting to do in the next administration, but I think we have done unprecedented reforms, and we've done them in a way that tries to honor both the community and making sure our officers get home safely. We haven't fired a SWAT shot in Albuquerque on an APD-controlled SWAT situation since 2014. So we've learned a lot as an administration. I think the department has 37 new policies now. They've been 75% trained on those new policies. Where we are in the process is we're 54% done with the field operations implementation. Once the next administration gets that to 100%, so we're basically 97 on policy, 75 on training, and 54 on operational. Once it gets operational, they have to keep it there for 2 years. I think it's very achievable. And so as I talk to people in the community who I've been listening to for 8 years, who had very grave concerns 6, 7 years ago, as we speak, there's been a noticeable difference. I think our officers are better trained, have better resources than they had. We spend $22 million or so more on APD than we did on my first budget here. So there's a lot of positive things there. It takes a long time for some individuals, and some individuals frankly won't ever get there, and I understand that, but I think the men and women of APD have made tremendous progress, and I think, you know, complaints from our citizens are down, officer complaints are down 22%, so we are showing some progress. The work never ends, but I think there's, you know, a lot of work has been done. But boy, I tell you, you talk to a family that has lost a loved one in an officer-involved shooting, regardless of the situations, and they've lost a loved one, and there's no getting around that. And when you talk to Officer Webster's family, they'll never get him back either. And so we've really tried hard. What we want people to know is we've really tried hard to do it right. I mean, I have Chief's permission to tell you this, but you know, I've been in the emergency room with Chief Eden when he basically worked himself sick to get this right. So we have the efforts there. It's a long haul. People ask me about Ray Schultz. People ask me about Alan Banks. They ask me about Chief Eden. What we've done is we've had the best people doing the work that we thought needed to be done at the time that it needed to be done. Everybody has their long hands and their short hands, and everybody's added value. Every chief I've worked with has added some value to the department. Chief Schultz, Real-Time Crime Center, the Silver Alert Program. Alan Banks was a great chief, even though he's only here a little while. He's down in a city near Austin now. Chief Eden came in at a time where we needed a reformer in chief. You know, different cities at different times need different things. And I just feel like we needed, at the time, someone with an extensive experience in policing, an academic background, and someone that would be willing and able to try to approach those in the right way. I understand that not everybody likes chief or me or the next elected person or the next chief, but I just watch the guy work every day, and I can just tell the community that there's just a lot of love for the officers and for the community, and I think he's given it his heart and soul. Well, go back and think about the process. So we have an investigation by the DOJ. They come out with a findings letter that says there's improvements in a lot of areas that need to be made. We then negotiate a settlement agreement. At that point, and that takes a long time, it's a lot of effort. And then we end up with a situation where a monitor needs to be, through a competitive process, selected. And then when the monitor comes in, you've got a police department that's trying to answer 500,000 calls for service every year, every day, all night. You've got a monitor who's got experience in other departments, who's there trying to do the work. Everybody is trying to get to a good place the right way. There are always going to be differences of opinion. I can tell you, though, once again, to the community, everybody's working hard. The monitor's working hard. APD's working hard. Yes, do they disagree at times? I'm not in the room when they have their meetings generally. In fact, hardly ever. You know, as a mayor, you kind of stay out of the room on that. But the fact is, I've seen everybody working hard, and I know that they have disagreements. But at the end of the day, you should have, because I have confidence and still have confidence that everybody's working towards a common goal, and they're just adamant about how they think it needs to be done, but it always has the community and it always has the officers in mind. So it doesn't surprise me. It's a very tense thing, and it's a very time-consuming effort, and lives are at stake. So I don't think people should be surprised you have passionate people involved, and those passionate people don't always agree, but they're all, in my opinion, trying to be honorable and get to a good place. So I'm confident that we will get there as a city.
I have just 5 minutes left.
Oh,
Sounds
sure.
good. Thanks,
Sure.
Brandon.
Well, I've had 4 different APOA leadership groups that I've worked with in 8 years. Started with Joey Segala, and then went into Greg Weber. I got his name wrong. I apologize. Let me start that again. So since I've been mayor, we've had 4 heads of the APOA, and you have to remember, we walk in and we have a $94 million shortfall our first year. We have 2 options. Well, we have 3. We could have raised taxes, but we've never raised taxes in my administration. But we could have laid off dozens, if not hundreds, of officers, or we did a pay cut, and that upsets people. And I get that. And we told the officers at the time, we'll do our best to get it right with you. Since then, we've raised pay 21%. We've had several raises get turned down. So I appreciate the fact that the union leadership has a job. They have a constituency. I have a job, I have a constituency. I don't believe that anybody could argue that our door isn't always open. If you have a good idea, if you can find a way to be more efficient, keep officers safe, we're always listening. We're not always going to agree, but we have to negotiate collective bargaining agreements. Like any other mayor around the country, there's tension involved in that as well. So it's not surprising. But what people should also remember is that it's the arguments that make the news. There's been a lot of times where there has been agreement, and where our team of negotiators, and Rob Perry's the CEO and others, have met with leadership to come to agreement on other things. I think it's part and parcel to running a large organization. So I don't begrudge anybody their opinion, and they're fighting for what they, they're fighting for a raise, and we have to sometimes say we don't have the dollars for those raises, but let's work where we can, and it's just part of the process.
Mayor speaking. It was somebody else. What do you think about that?
I don't think that's true. You'd have to give me an example. I mean, I was there 45 minutes when after the findings letter came out, talking to a room full of press. We've been in.
So you disagree?
Yeah, well, I mean, as a mayor, you have your public face, but you're also in the living room with the family that's picking out the funeral dress for their daughter that got killed in a road rage incident, or you're at the hospital in the middle of the night, watching, with everybody while an officer struggles for their life. There's a lot of moments as a mayor. I guess I would have to ask those individuals, what was that moment that you're speaking about? Because we've been, I'm here all day, every day, and I don't think we've ever turned down an interview or that we've ever turned down an opportunity to speak to our community, whether it's good news or whether it's bad news. And that's been an honor to be able to do that. I just don't think I'd agree with that.
I'll make this my last question. When eight years ago, you walked into this very office, and I know that you had a head full of ideas, a head full of things that you wanted to accomplish. Do you think you accomplished all those things?
I think for the vast majority we did through collaboration. People ask us, well, what are you really proud of? I'm proud that we were able to work with a city council that had a Republican majority of times, that had a Democrat majority of times. When we had to cut pay and times were tough, we had the Democrats with us. When we wanted to do public transit, we had a lot of Republicans with us. We didn't get to the point where we're going to hold yesterday's vote against you in your district tomorrow. So if you look back on, the massive rewrite of the zoning codes, and like I say, the not the sexy headline stuff, but just the heavy lifts, the homelessness initiatives, the $1.2 billion in infrastructure, that's not because I'm any kind of a genius. That's because we were able to collaborate and cooperate. This environment, or this entrepreneurial ecosystem that's thriving in Albuquerque now. The fact that we've added 25,000 jobs in the last 5 years in Albuquerque, that's good stuff. And crime is on the front of the agenda today, as it should be. And nobody's saying that doesn't need to get better. But you look back on the 8 years, and I've just been extremely fortunate that this community would work together. And we have got a lot of things done through that process. You never finish everything, but just a big thank you to this community. I'm telling you, apologize to no one for being Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've become a student of cities. I know hundreds of mayors around the country. Everybody has opportunities, everybody has challenges, but this is an incredibly unique place. And so together we've faced very difficult challenges, the Great Recession and others, but we've also, in many, many ways, understanding that crime is up today, but in many, many, many ways, we're leaving the place better than we found it. And I say we because it's not your mayor, it's all of us. We got to a lot of collective yeses as a community in the last 8 years, even during tough times. And that's just something that I have mayors around the country that would just dearly love to have that, and they don't. So we are just not a complicated guy. We served as best we could. I think the community's left a lot of things better than they found them. We did what we said, which was we want to run City Hall more like a business and less like a political machine. I think without a doubt, if you ask people, we've absolutely done that. We've reinvented government in a lot of ways because we have 6,000 tremendous employees. And then, most of all, we have a community that really, really does love each other. I mean, you got 600,000 brothers and sisters. Sometimes you argue, right? But this town doesn't generally have a habit of letting each other down. And mayors come and go, I get that, and we've been blessed to do it for 8 years. And Marie and I say thank you to the community for that. This is just, I ran for mayor because I loved my city, and I'm leaving with an adoration that I wouldn't have even expected, just far beyond where I even started. So we're just thankful people.
I'll let you have that last word.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.